Welcome to the Breaking into Brokerage live stream. This is the second one in the course so far. Before we actually really get started, just a little bit of housekeeping first. If somebody could confirm to me that they can actually see me and hear me, that's always encouraging to know. So I'll just wait on a moment for comments or some sort of reaction to that before I get started. I can see 6 watching so far, so if somebody could just confirm that they can actually hear me, that would be great. Now I can see 8 watching, so I'm hoping somebody will leave a comment. Okay, thank you very much, Lucifer. Lucifer says I hear you. So on that basis, we'll get started. As you know, the idea of this live stream is to give help to people who'd love to get into the brokerage industry or into the yachting industry and really aren't sure how to do it. In the first part of the course, we discussed some of the elementary aspects of that. We'll be going a little bit deeper today. The course part will take 10 minutes, 15 minutes maximum, after which I'll be happy to take any questions that you possibly have. As always, if it's accompanied by a super chat, I can absolutely guarantee the best answer I can possibly give. Otherwise, on the basis of last week, there's a lot of questions come in, and sometimes it's not always not always possible to answer all of them. Wow, already had a super chat from Daniel again. Daniel Duarte Javot, thank you so much. That's really generous of you. Very, very, very nice and very encouraging to know that it's appreciated what we're doing. Now, I'd like to get straight into the course part, because you remember that last week we covered the very, very basic essential that if you want to be in the yachting industry, it's really good to be in a place where there are yachts. We spoke about different places throughout the world that you could move to, and also practical aspects as to how you can live in some of those areas which are considered to be very, very expensive. We spoke about not being embarrassed to ask for advice on economic places to be able to live. We also spoke about specific places such as yachtingpages.com where you can find economic places to live. We spoke about the danger of getting drawn into the drinking culture, and that's the best thing to avoid, especially when you're first starting out. We talked about Facebook groups that can be of helpful, and also the advantage of having a broker buddy, somebody to share the expenses with. But we finished that part of the course by saying that once you've decided that you're going to do that, you're going to make the move to a place where there are yachts, whether that's Antibes or Fort Lauderdale or Sydney or wherever it may be. Take a good look at yourself in the mirror. Ask yourself, who am I? Where am I in my life at the moment? What assets do I have that I can bring to the table as a yacht broker? And that will help you to decide upon a strategy that will enable you then to enter into the brokerage business. And we said basically there are 3 different categories of people who ask me advice on how to become a yacht broker. You've got the complete starter, the dissatisfied worker, and then third group is somebody who's just an ambitious career builder, and that's where they feel they want to go next, into yacht brokerage. Today we're going to look at the complete starter. And what do I mean by a complete starter? Well, I'm thinking of somebody who's maybe just left school or left university, or who's got very, very little work experience, but they've already decided that work in their area is not for them. That's not the life for them. They want something more exciting perhaps, or more fulfilling, but they're just starting off in their work life. Now, if you're listening to this and you've got a university degree, I've got some good news and I've got some bad news. The good news is there's no barrier to entry to becoming a yacht broker. You don't need a degree. You don't need any particular qualifications. I sometimes wish you did, but you don't. The bad news is that regrettably, a degree is not going to get you a job as a yacht broker. You can go to any yacht brokerage company and have an interview there. You can have studied at Harvard or Yale, Oxford, Cambridge, any amazing university, and have incredible qualifications. amazing qualifications. That's not what a yacht brokerage is looking for. And here's maybe the first valuable piece of advice that I want to give in this part of the course. What a yacht brokerage is looking for are relevant connections, first of all. Who do you know? What business can you bring to that yacht brokerage? Do you have a connection with a yacht owner who's thinking of buying or selling his yacht? Do you know a lot of captains who are well connected? Do you have other inroads into the industry? Because if you can't bring any business to the yacht brokerage, most likely they won't even consider offering you a job. Relevant connections. The second thing, of course, you need some knowledge of yachts and the yacht industry. Now, a knowledge of yachts can be like being a yacht anorak, where you see a yacht on the horizon, and I know people who can do this. You see a yacht on the horizon and you say, that's rising sun. You can tell me the length of it, the owner, the year of build, the shipyard. That's being a yacht anorak, and that's great. That can be really, really useful. But you need to know a bit about the industry too, the ethics and the etiquette, the people involved in the industry and how they work together. That's really valuable knowledge that a yacht brokerage will consider to be of value bringing to them. The third thing is a proven ability to network. Networking is hugely important for a yacht broker. And the fourth thing is some experience, some successful experience in sales, of course, is very, very important when you're going for a sales-based job. So you'll find those 4 points in the notes in the description below this video. But I'll say them again. You need to have relevant connections, a knowledge of yachts and the yachting industry, a proven ability to network, and successful experience, some successful experience in sales. Now, I'm bearing in mind that I'm addressing this part of the course to people who are completely starting out for the first time. And you might say, well, how am I going to go about getting all of that? How am I going to build those assets? Well, let's take you back a moment to that moment that you land in France or you Fort Lauderdale, wherever it is you decided to go, and you've effectively got a blank piece of paper. Well, no, you don't. You have a piece of paper called a university degree. And whilst your degree will have taught you many valuable assets that you have and abilities to have, in itself it's of no benefit, and you're aware of that, and you've just landed. Now's the time to start building the assets that a yacht brokerage will find to be of value. And I would encourage you to consider the next few years as your apprenticeship to become a yacht broker, as a little yacht broker university that's probably going to last between 3 and 5 years. More likely 5 than 3, I have to say, to be honest. So what are you going to do in those years? The course that many people take to becoming a yacht broker is by working as crew on a yacht. Now, it's pretty obvious why that is going to be of use to you if you're able to work as crew. The whole yachting industry is centered around the yacht. Yacht owners go to their yacht, yacht captains are on the yacht, yacht suppliers, yacht brokers. You'll meet a lot of valuable people, valuable connections that you can make, which will see you in good stead in your career in the future as a yacht broker. So working as a crew is a very, very popular option that leads people on to becoming yacht brokers. And I have to say that some of the most successful brokers that I know were once crew, and many of them are now multimillionaires and hugely successful in the brokerage field. But they started off as crew. They did their time, they made their contacts. And during that time that you're making contacts, your reputation is of massive importance to you. You need to be seen to be somebody who's efficient, diligent, respectful, friendly, proactive, so that whenever people think of you, they're thinking of somebody who they can rely upon and go to at any time. All the time, of course, you want to be picking up information about the industry. Gossip on the dock is always a good thing to be picking up on. Who's selling what, what's going on where, what boat's selling for how much money. You're building within you this amazing reservoir of contacts, knowledge, and a yachting culture, if you do it in the right way. And we kind of go back to one of the comments that I made in last week's live course. Don't go out and get drunk every evening. I mean, once or twice, okay, that's quite understandable, but don't make a habit of doing that. Use these years as your time to build up this great database of knowledge and a great database of contacts. And remember, as important as you knowing the people is them knowing you and respecting you for the work that you do. That will be hugely beneficial to you in the future. Said that, having said that, working as crew on a yacht is not the only way to go about building up that foundation to become a yacht broker in the future. There are lots of different industries surrounding the yachting industry which you can plug into and get involved with. And I've just made a note of a few. And again, this list will be in the description below the video, so you can refer to it afterwards. For example, and this just came to my mind as I was making my notes on this. There's a business in the south of France that's very successful that cleans carpets on yachts. They clean carpets on yachts. Massively successful business. You imagine that and I have to say, it takes a certain amount of humility, I think, to have just come out of university and then go and clean carpets on a yacht. But it's all about strategy. And if you're prepared to, sorry, I must apologize for that. I don't know if you saw that last little bit. I did wonder what would happen if somebody telephoned me as I was on a live stream. Now I know the screen went completely black. So I'm just going to repeat that last little bit again in case you missed it. It does take some humility if you've just finished university to then go and work cleaning carpets on yachts. I do understand that, but it's about strategy. It's about taking 2 steps backwards in order to take 10 steps forward in the future. And if you're working, for example, for a carpet cleaning company, you're going on board yachts, you're meeting captains, you're meeting crew, you're getting a name for yourself, you're being respected, and you're building a reputation. There's nothing worse than going for an interview at a yacht brokerage company and people say, does anybody know this guy? And around the office, everybody goes, never heard of him. It's much better if somebody can say, yeah, actually, there's a captain who's given him a good reference as being efficient and friendly and knowledgeable. You're building your reputation, but not just carpet cleaning. There's lots of different industries that you can attack. Crew uniform suppliers, yacht toiletry suppliers. I know somebody who has a business, a very successful business, supplying high-end toiletries to all of the yachts on the south of France. Can you imagine? You're going there, you're delivering them, you're meeting crew, you stop, you have a coffee, a little chat with the captain. They can see you're a friendly person, and you're building up a rapport because you're getting onto the yacht. But you have to be able to get onto the yacht to be able to do that. Then all of a sudden, when you go out in the evening for one glass of wine, crew members see you who know you, and you're networking. There's engine and generator service centres. There are water toy suppliers, people who sell jet skis, sea bobs, tenders. There's companies that repair and replace the teak on decks. You've got yacht audio video specialists, food suppliers, concierge services, video and photography services, yacht refit and repair yards, yacht builders, which by the way was the route that I took. I didn't know I was deliberately taking that route at the time, but I got into brokerage because I originally worked for a builder. You've even got companies that make the names on the back of yachts. You've seen that they're often in this lovely polished stainless steel. Somebody has to make that and go and fit it. And when they go and fit it, they meet the crew, they're seen on the dock, and you're networking. You've got lighting specialists, hull and superstructure painting companies, interior designers. The list goes on and on and on. But my point in all of this for the complete starter is don't think that you're going to get straight into a position as a yacht broker, because even if you have the best qualifications in the world, it's highly, highly unlikely unless you happen to know a few yacht owners. View this as your apprenticeship period, view it as your yacht university, get a job in a yacht related business, and all the while that you're working for them, build your reputation, build your connections, build your knowledge of the industry, and then when you do go and sit in front of the MD of a yacht brokerage, you've got something to offer. You know people, they know you, and a brokerage is far more likely to give you some business. So that ends this part of the course. In the next one, next week, we'll be looking at the second category of people, which is the one that contacts me most often, to be honest, and that's the dissatisfied worker. That's the person who watches my videos from Milwaukee or Idaho or Alice Springs, I don't know, Wolverhampton, and they say, I'd love to be in that yachting industry. They already have a good job, but it's not satisfying them. It's not doing it for them. We'll be looking at that specific category in next week's part of the course. And now I invite any questions, and I'm going to look through the comments, starting with Patrick Abbas. And Patrick, thank you so much for being such a long-standing and loyal viewer of the channel. I really appreciate all of your input. He said, first of all, he tells me that he can hear me, so that's good. Thanks, Patrick. Would you advise a client to get an older and refit or a newer model? Of course, if both are in good condition. It depends a lot upon your budget, because you can pick up an older yacht for a lot less money, of course. And if you get a good survey on it, you can pretty much contain the costs of the refit. However, older yachts will often have higher yearly running costs. So that's something to really bear in mind. I once actually sold a yacht on behalf of a gentleman who bought an old 50-meter yacht. It was built in the 1980s by a shipyard called Campanella, which doesn't exist anymore. He did a great refit on it. He kept his costs very, very low, and he sailed the entire world. I mean, he had an amazing time with his family. But the running costs were really quite high on that yacht, but his capital expenditure was quite low. So it really depends on what your budget is, what you're looking to do with the yacht. If I just want a place to fly down to the south of France from the UK, for example, and spend a few days with my family on board, I'd probably buy a newer yacht, to be honest. But if I'm looking for world cruising and budget is a big issue, I'd look at a refit. Jerry Boyard, Jerry from the Great Lakes of Ontario, Canada is here and eager to listen. Thanks, Jerry. I hope you've enjoyed it. Very much appreciated. Mary Cook says, how are you? I'm very well, thanks. Jorn Vorscher is talking about Bitcoin, which is something we discussed in the last part of the course. He says it's up 15%. Can I buy a bigger yacht now? Well, I'm glad that you said LOL, because otherwise I would have felt bad at laughing at that question. But it's a funny comment. Jerry Boyer, how do I get involved with super chats? When you have time to explain it, of course, I've got no idea. I think it works that if you look at the bottom of the chat column, there's a little dollar sign, like a square dollar sign. I think you press that and it all works from there. I am hopelessly ignorant on this kind of thing. I think I'm pretty good at putting videos together. But yeah, I'm pretty sure that's how the super chat works. You click on that dollar, it allows you to select how much you want to give me. Put your comment or your question along with the super chat, and I'll make sure that anybody who gives me a super chat, I will definitely answer the question in the most thorough way that I possibly can. Miracook, David, with lots of red hand signs. What's included in the charter price? What is the expenses? Miracook, that's a good question. When you charter a yacht, it's like you own the yachts for the period of the charter. The crew are paid for. The maintenance is paid for. The fuel is not. You have to pay for the fuel. You have to pay for the food and drink. And I'm not a charter broker, but I know a reasonable amount about charter. You pay what's called an advanced provisioning allowance, an APA, which can vary. I think it's about 15% of the total charter price. And that money goes to pay for the fuel, the food. You would be amazed how much money goes on food and drinks on a charter. And what it means is that you don't have to keep going to the captain to say, can you order a car and driver to pick up guests? and then give him your credit card. He's got the APA, he's got it in his account, so he can just do all of those. And then at the end of the charter, you're given the accounts for your charter, which obviously you need to approve of everything that you've spent that comes out of the APA. And then at the end, you give a very nice big tip to the crew, especially if you're on AWOL, the San Lorenzo, with Tristan Mortlock, who's the captain there. That's a good yacht to charter, good crew to tip. FV Tuna Time gives Jerry some information on the super chat, so thanks very much for doing that. It's the usual problem that the comments slip down and I have to keep bringing them back up again. You have to forgive me if I don't read out everybody's name. Everybody's saying hi. It's really in the interest of just answering people's questions. Radmila Zuban, hi David, can you tell me what company makes the best bang for your buck Explorer yachts? I'm guessing Italian or Turkish for yachts up to 30 meters. I would say you're right. I mean, my experience of the Turkish yards is that there's a huge disparity between the quality of one yard and the other. And whilst there are certain Turkish yards which I would never take a client to, there are other Turkish yards who, in my opinion, are absolutely world-class in terms of value to the money that you pay. One particularly that springs to mind is New Marine, who, great company, lovely people, great product, sensible prices. They've come out with a range of Explorer yachts, which is called the XP, the 30X or 32XP, which actually I'll be doing a video about very soon. And if you look back through my old videos, on each YouTube channel, you've got a little magnifying glass, so you can search in the channel, put in New Marine, Numarine, and you'll find one of the longest videos I've ever done was a walk through their facilities. It's a great, great place. Hi from Brazil. Thanks, Carlos. Having just said I'm not going to read out all these hellos, I've just done that. Yeah, GV, very, very good question that I get asked a lot. Some yachts for sale say not for sale to US residents while in US waters. Why do they do that? I'd love to give you a very detailed and thorough answer, and I will look into it in more detail, but it's a tax issue. It's to do with yachts having to pay tax in the United States in order to be sold. So if they have not paid that tax, basically they can't be sold in the US. I feel like I've not given you a very satisfactory answer, so I'm going to make a note, because honestly, almost all the yachts that I sell are in the Med. And I asked an American colleague that question not long ago. He gave me a brilliant answer. I'm going to make a note of it. And next week, I'll give you a proper, thorough answer, because I'm a bit ashamed of myself not being able to give you a sufficiently good answer in this live stream. Not for sale to US, question mark, question mark. Okay. GV, I will answer that much better next week. And as I say, I'm a little bit ashamed that I can't give you a more detailed answer right now. I've had another super chats. I think if I click on the super chat, Daniel again. Thank you very much, Daniel. Do you have any other websites other than the one that you told us last week that I could get more knowledge on of the industry? Absolutely recommend Super Yacht Times in terms of a website that's really on the ball with what's going on in the industry. Another, which is of course superyachttimes.com. Another interesting one is called IBI News, and that's a far more industry related website. I have to be careful I don't cut you off here. I'm opening another window on my computer. IBI News. Yeah, it's www.ibinews.com. And IBI is International Boat Industry. They are far more focused on the actual industry side of the business, whereas Super Yacht Times is more of a news channel telling you what's going on in the industry. IBI is actually brilliant. They do some great interviews with industry leaders and look at trends and yeah, strongly recommend IBI News. Joe Bradley asks, any idea why more designers and yards aren't going for single tier engine rooms like Bravo Eugenia, giving much more room over to guests? No, I don't. And I think Bravo Eugenia will probably set a trend in that. And I think we'll probably see more yards doing it. That's the best answer I can give you to that. Patrick Abbas, would you advise a client to get an older and refit or newer model? Of course, I've already answered that, Patrick. I must have slipped somewhere along the way. Jerry, got it. Hit the dollar bottom. I'll hit the dollar button. I'll try it later. Thanks. Thank you, Jerry. Emanuele Di Mari, grazie David. Very useful as usual. Grazie a te, Emanuele. Melniku Ionut, how is this crisis caused by the virus will affect the construction of new yachts? Very good question. And that remains to be seen because most yacht builders in Italy, and bear in mind that Italy produces more yachts than almost every other country in the world combined. Almost. I mean, the yacht building industry in Italy is huge. Bearing that in mind, most, if not all, Italian yards will be back in production from next week. Some, such as Ferretti Group, are already in production in a limited way. So the question is, how many people have cancelled the orders on the yachts that they're building? And that remains to be seen. I believe that in Italy, we may have just about got out of the crisis in time to salvage the yacht building industry. I'm sure there's going to be damage done, but it remains to be seen. I'm sure that in the coming weeks we'll be hearing stories along those lines. I've just had another super chat in, $99.99. Thank you very much, Adrian A. That's very, very generous. Great videos. I want to retire to the Western Med and live on a yacht with 3 adult children, 1 8-year-old, and room for a potential wife. What can I get for 5 to 7 million? And how soon would I be able to buy a used wider 150? Let me start with the easy parts of that. To buy a used wider 150, there's only one in the world that was ever built. So a used one, there only is one, and it's not currently for sale. 7 million wouldn't be enough to buy it anyway. However, the wider shipyard is operational and working again, and I'm sure they would be delighted to build another 150. Right now, they're looking at other projects with a slightly different design, but still with very innovative propulsion systems. But yeah, they build a wider 150. It's about a 2-year build process. By the time that you've sort of come to the yard, talk to them about the way that you want to spec the yacht, put together a contract, it'd be a good 2 years to get that built. With regard to the other part of your question, what can I get for 5 to 7 million? The fact that you've paid your super chat in dollars makes me think you're talking about dollars. I would say a lot would depend on what your budget for running costs are. I mentioned earlier in the video about the gentleman whose yacht I sold for him, who put together a refit. That was a 150-foot yacht, 50-meter yacht, built in the 1980s. And he sailed the world with that. And it was a lovely, lovely yacht. It was called Mary Jean, and it was built by Campanella. But his running costs were quite high. You'd be looking at certainly over $1 million a year to run a yacht of that size, but certainly that would come into the $5 to $7 million category. If somebody came to me today and they were looking to cruise the world with that kind of budget, we'd start to look at some of those older 50-meter yachts, which have got nice volume where you can live with your family very, very comfortably, go anywhere that you want, but you'll have high running costs. If you want something with less running costs, I would buy a newer yacht. And if to live on board, I mean, a lot depends on your tastes. The fact that you like the wider 150 makes me think that you probably enjoy modern styling. And so I think 5 to 7, I think I'd look at something in the 100-foot range built by Custom Line, for example. You could get a used Custom Line 100 or in the 100-foot range, or actually, you know what? Again, Ferretti Custom Line did a fantastic series called the Navetta, 30-meter and 33-meter. You may be able to pick one up for that sort of price range. Your running costs will be a lot lower on that as well, and you can live there with your family and have a whale of a time, and really enjoy it. Feel free, if that's not sufficient, feel free to drop me an email. If you look at yachtsforsaleblog.com, you'll find my email address there. Drop me an email. We can discuss it more in detail. And thanks so much for the super chat. That was very, very generous of you. Thank you. Javier Costa Henere. I hope I've pronounced that right. If you have an engineering degree, would it be a good choice starting by working as a junior engineer in a yacht? How much of a contact does this employee have with owners? First of all, Javier, thanks for asking a question that's relevant to the course. That's really really a good question. Yeah, I think working as an engineer, you certainly do come in contact with the owners, depending on the size of yacht that you're working on. I suspect that with very, very large yachts in the sort of 80, 90-meter range, maybe not quite so much, but certainly a 35, 40, 50-meter that have engineers on board, yeah, they're in regular contact with the owners. And by the way, engineers on yachts are in great demand and very highly paid. So that's a great way to get into the industry. It really is. And I think as well that if you do take that route and then become a broker, you bring something to the party that's really quite unique, or not unique, but unusual. And that's a broker who can talk with an engineering background. Some clients are going to absolutely love that and value it very, very highly indeed. And also, I think you'll win the respect of yacht captains and other people who you rely upon for your networking. Had another super chat. Adrian A again with another $99.99. Thank you very much, Adrian. Thank you very much indeed. Also, I'd love any advice on restrictions for how long you can stay in port without any tax restrictions on residency. Also, what would a wider 150 cost new? And may I contact you directly to help me? Absolutely, Adrian. Take a look at my website, yachtsforsaleblog.com. My email address anyway is david@yachtsforsaleblog.com. Feel free to drop me an email. A wider 150, you're going to be looking in the region, brand new, you're going to be looking in the region of between 27 and 30 million euro for a new wider 150, depending upon what level of specification that you put on it. Some people will spend $500,000 on an audio video system, for example. Decor can change the price of a new yacht enormously. What a yacht builder usually does is they give you, in the contract, you have a budget for audio video, a budget for navigation equipment, a budget for the decor per square meter. And if you want anything on top of what that budget is, you have to pay for it. But with a reasonable budget, sub 30 million, you should be able to get a wider 150 brand new. With regard to restrictions on how long you can stay in port, it depends. It depends from port to port, to be perfectly honest. A bigger issue than you staying on the yacht is the crew, because last year new tax laws were introduced in France on yacht crew who live in France but work on yachts. And they were trying to tighten up on the fact that these crew have a house in France but may spend 9 months of the year or more outside of France. And so the French government were really trying to clamp down on that and get as much tax as they could out of those crew. The problem, Adrian, with tax laws is that they vary from country to country. They change all the time. They're very inconsistent, especially in countries like Italy, where they can be interpreted in many, many different ways. And you can never feel totally secure that you're doing what you need to do. I mean, I'll give you an example of that. The Italian government came out with an Italian leasing scheme where you could basically borrow the money to buy a yacht on a lease basis, and you pay the VAT to the Italian government on a much reduced rate, which was great, right? For the French did a similar thing. There was a French leasing, there was a Maltese leasing, there was an Italian leasing. However, the Italians were the only one that after you'd finished, and so you therefore had a VAT paid yacht, they never issued a VAT paid certificate. And I can tell you it's somewhat of a nightmare when you come to sell a yacht that's been bought using that process. You then have to prove that it's VAT paid, and you have no VAT paid certificate. I mean, there is a way you can do it, but it's not easy. So when it comes to tax advice, I know a number of people and companies who are absolutely the best in the industry at knowing exactly what the tax implications are in all different countries, and their job is just to keep on top of the changing, shifting sands of tax legislation throughout the world, so they can give you best advice. And for clients of mine who are looking to buy a yacht with me, I focus on helping them to find the right yacht for them, and I'll let the experts give them the tax advice. And certainly with you, Adrian, I would put you in contact with a company which is essentially a lawyer. It's a tax lawyer who can give you best advice on that subject. So I hope that's of assistance. Going down, and I'm sorry if I've missed any questions here. Yes, Michael Berger asks a nice question. As a broker, do you ever get to spend time on yachts when the owners use them? I do. I haven't done for quite a while. But there was a period when I spent a lot of time on owners' yachts, and I had a whale of a time. As a matter of fact, the first brokerage that I worked for, the owner of the brokerage owned a yacht, and it was a very nice yacht. And it was in the marina quite close to our office. So I would very often stay on board because I had a nice friendly relationship with the owner, still do. And it was wonderful. Also on a very, very large yacht that I sold, I was privileged to be a guest on board. And apart from the fun factor, let's say, of being a guest on board a truly amazing yacht, what it did for me was it gave me an insight into the level of service that's offered on yachts, and also why people buy yachts. I think on that, particularly on that very, very large yacht, the penny dropped as to why these people spend so much money on something which is not going to be an appreciating asset. So yes, in answer to your question, I do get to spend time on yachts. I hope to continue to. There's more, I could give so much more on that subject, but I will move on to other questions. Mason Long says, how do you get into the business? I won't bore you with that story now, but what I will say is if you go to Super Yacht Captain's YouTube channel, Super Yacht Captain, he allowed me to tell my whole story as to how I got into the business on his channel. He very flatteringly called the video the world's most famous yacht broker or something like that, or at least he put that on the thumbnail. So you'll find it quite easily. It's quite a recent video of his. I mean, don't go to his channel now. Finish watching this first, but then afterwards, take a look at his channel, and you'll see my whole story. I had another super chat, Daniel again. Thank you, Daniel. Can you talk about renovating yachts as an investment opportunity? Yes, I can. Um, there are yacht owners who, sorry, he's added an addendum here with another $10. Thanks again, Daniel. I already do this luxury homes. Would like to know if with yachts it's also a good deal. There are some owners that have done that with fairly large yachts and to some success. They've taken old yachts, they've refitted them, done a wonderful job. They then put them on the charter market. And in addition to having use of the yachts with zero running costs, um, they've also got a business which makes a small profit. However, it consumes a lot of their time. It's very, very high risk, tremendously high risk. These very, very few yacht owners who do that are able to do it because they have such a profound knowledge of yachts and yachting and the refit process. And they have such an amazing team around them and such a great relationship with the shipyards that they work with to do the refit. And they know the charter market so well. They're only able to do it because they've already made their money in some other business, and then that's allowed them to do it. I think as a career move, it's incredibly high risk, and I would never recommend anybody to do it. I think the only route to take is to make your money with luxury homes, which is a business that you clearly know very well. Buy a yacht for the best price that you possibly can, but buy it with the knowledge that you're probably going to lose money on it when you sell it. And if you do that with smaller yachts losing small amounts of money, then and you accumulate your wealth through property, then by the time that you want to embark on a project doing up an old yacht and put it on the charter market and maybe flipping it for a profit, by the time you do that, you'll have enough cash um, reserves to be able to take that kind of a risk, and enough knowledge from your previous yacht ownership to make it less of a risk. I hope that makes sense. I just feel that as a broker, I could never recommend somebody to do that as a business because the risks are huge. You will probably lose your shirt unless you go into it already with a really good amount of knowledge. I mean, even with what I know of yacht building and yacht brokerage, I wouldn't do it. I absolutely wouldn't do it. Even if I had a load of money in the bank, I wouldn't do it. For me, you buy a yacht to enjoy yourself, to have a whale of a time, and to look at it and go, look how successful I've been, rather than going into it as a business. I hope that helps, and thanks again for the super chat. Brian Drefke says, I had the same question as Mason. Thank you. Did I answer Mason's question? Oh yeah, Mason asked me how I got into the business. And again, Super Yacht Captain did a great, well, I did the video. He edited it very, very well and put it on his channel. Liam Murphy, would you recommend getting an electric yacht, like a silent yacht, to save on fuel? Thanks. I would always recommend silent yachts. I think that the people are fantastic at silent yachts. I love the concept. I am, as soon as the lockdown's finishes, I'll get back into filming a documentary series that follows the construction of the Silent 80. And so far what I've seen, I absolutely love. I love everything about them. I love their marketing, their concept, their products. So that's a big, big thumbs up from me and a definite yes. Philip Rombouts, what is, according to you, the biggest advantage and the biggest disadvantage of being a yacht broker, please? That is a very easy question to answer. The biggest advantage is the lifestyle. It's a wonderful lifestyle. And when it goes well, you can make a lot of money. With no, I don't have a university education at all. So without any qualifications, no barrier to entry, you can get into an incredible business, which is hugely exciting and fascinating and allows you to learn so much about so many things, not least of which is human nature and the business side of it. The advantages are huge. I love my life. I love waking up every day to do what I do. The disadvantage is that the stress is colossal. It really is colossal. If you don't make any sales, you don't make any money. You are constantly spending. If a client says to me, we need you tomorrow in Fort Lauderdale. I mean, right now I can't fly, but the normal conditions, I want to go and look at a yacht with you in Miami tomorrow. Whatever the price, I have to be there. I have to be there to show him the yacht. For some clients, I mean, other clients, I would probably get a colleague of mine in America, but there are certain clients who I'd be there, whatever it cost. I would be there. And if that client, because they're busy, can't make it, they can just call me and say, I'm really sorry, business deal went sideways, we're going to have to do it next month. And I've just lost my money. And because of the financial burden and the stress level, there's a huge amount of depression with yacht brokers. I absolutely admit I went through a prolonged period of very bad depression because deals were just falling apart left and right around me. I'd got, well, I still do have 3 kids to feed. I felt like a failure. And I can say that without any embarrassment because I know that a lot of other yacht brokers have been through similar things. So it's a high risk, high reward business. And those are the advantages and disadvantages. The high risk is the disadvantage, the high reward is the advantage. I'm just looking through the questions. Joe Bradley says an interesting one. Multi-yacht Radiant was sold for almost twice the original build cost. Is this still common within the industry? No, it's absolutely not common. And that may well be true. I'm absolutely not saying it's not true, but there's a lot of tool stories in the industry about sales price and build prices. And sometimes people say, oh, I know because the captain told me or the broker told me. They don't always know, unless they're the broker that actually sold the yacht twice, and in which case they shouldn't be telling anybody that kind of information anyway. But no, assuming that that's true about Radiant, it's certainly not common at all. Judas Tamad, greetings here in the Philippines. There's a millionaire inquiring about yacht fit for him, and I took the chance to suggest and I endorse him a Monte Carlo and Custom Line 108. Is it okay? Absolutely okay. Both great yachts. Well done, Judas. Yeah. I want to get to know Monte Carlo yachts a little bit better, to be honest, because I like what I've seen. I like the designs. I like the fact that they're part of a much bigger group of yacht builders. Custom Line I know very well, and the 108 is a great boat. Judas says, so with all due respect, I love it when people start with that. With all due respect, can I raise a question? What is the best yacht to suggest based on my 2 options? Oh, is it Monte Carlo or Custom Line? Oh, it depends on your client. You get to a point where don't try to second guess the clients. You might think that the Custom Line is better and you might prefer the Monte Carlo. They're both great yachts. See which one takes his interest the most. And also on a case-by-case basis, since it's not built anymore, I assume that you're looking at a pre-owned one. So it depends what condition it's in, how well it's been looked after. We have another super chat. TFM Iron Josky, thanks for the super chat, very much appreciated. Can't afford a yacht, but I just want to say thanks for your videos. Well, thank you, and thanks for the super chat. I really appreciate that. It really makes me happy that the YouTube channel has become a source to fuel people's dreams, because I know how important that is in my life. I spend a fair amount of time online looking at stuff I can't afford, but would like to afford, and think about how I can get there. I don't think there's anything wrong with that. And if people look at my yacht videos and envision themselves owning some of these yachts, I think that's absolutely wonderful. It makes me very happy. The only thing I would say, and I'm just putting this out here, Um, I sometimes do get emails from people who watch my channel who say, I want to buy this particular yacht. And it becomes very, very, very evident very, very soon that they are on a flight of fantasy. And I don't mind that at all. I kind of understand it, but I just say I hope they don't mind when I don't spend too much time on them with their flight of fantasy, because I've had people in the past, and this has happened to many other brokers that I know. Um, I spent a lot of time, a lot of effort to then find out that people don't have anywhere near the money they need to buy the yacht, and that for a yacht broker can be quite a depressing state of affairs. I do very thorough due diligence on everybody, and as soon as I think that they can't afford the yacht, I'm afraid it's game over. You have to excuse me, I'm not totally familiar with the super yachts, how it works. I'm just making sure that I've not missed any. I don't think I have. I'm still loving Adrian's comment about living on a yacht with 3 adult children and an 8-year-old and room for a potential wife. It's the potential wife that really makes me smile. If I'll get you the yacht, you'll find a wife. I can tell you, it's the a big attraction is being a yacht owner. Looking through more. Brian Drefke, I'm 17 and looking for a career, and this industry is fascinating. I could use some help. Well, that's what we're here for. Keep watching this live stream every week, Friday, 6 o'clock in the evening, and hopefully we'll give you all the advice that you need. So, Arnold, could you reiterate what you're looking for in a researcher, please? Now you're referring to a post that I did on LinkedIn where I'm looking for an apprentice. Thanks for giving me the opportunity to elaborate on that. I am looking for an apprentice. I get lots and lots of requests from yacht builders to film sponsored videos for them. And I literally can't cope with the demand. You know, I need to look after my clients as a yacht broker. I want to produce as many videos as I can at the same time. And I want to look after the sponsorship side of the YouTube channel too. So I need somebody who's a mini me. I don't care how old they are. I don't care what they look like. I don't care what accent they have. Clearly, they need to be able to speak English well. But if they do that with Italian, French, German, whatever accent, I really don't mind. In the first instance, I need them to do a lot of research for me, because the research and writing of my videos takes up a lot of time. And if I can just get somebody to do that for me, it will free up a lot of my time. But pretty soon after that, I want them then to be able to appear on camera and to be able to present things. I mean, I'm not going to disappear from this YouTube channel, but I want to be able to offer more videos. The only way I can do that if I can get help. If you're interested in that, David at Yachts for Sale blog.com. Tell me a bit about yourself, but also make a quick film of yourself with your phone, just so that I get an idea of how you come across on camera. It doesn't have to be anything elaborate, but at least I can figure out how understandable you are in English, and if I think you've got something that we can work with. Another super chat from Daniel again. Thanks, Daniel. In real estate, we ask for proof of funds from the buyer. Is that a common thing on yacht sales also? Yes, it is. It's something that I personally am cautious about. The very first thing I do when I get an inquiry is I Google the name of the person. I had a great inquiry this week. I Googled the guy's name, and immediately it came up as one of the wealthiest people in his part of the world. And it was very, very clear. Also, from little things that he said in the email, it was clear. By the way, that inquiry came from one of the videos I posted on YouTube. So people who say wealthy people don't watch YouTube, not true. This particular person and many others. So yeah, in his case, I Googled him, immediately saw that he was qualified, so I spent a lot of time replying to him. If I can't find them on Google, I don't immediately assume that that they can't afford a yacht. Going back a step, sometimes I do find them on Google. I can see exactly who they are, and there's no way in the world they can afford a yacht. And so at that point, I do ask for proof of funds, because that usually they get offended by that, and I never hear from them again. I had one guy wrote to me and he said I could buy. He was inquiring about Serenity, which is $16 million Mangusta 165, and it was pretty clear to me that he wasn't qualified. And I said, with respect, we'd ask some sort of indication of your financial qualifications. The owner wants me to do this, and as you know, it's quite normal in real estate. In real estate, it's perfectly normal. Why should it not be normal in yachts? And the guy wrote back, I could buy that yacht 3 times over. How dare you? And I never heard from him again. And when people react like that, you know that they don't have any money, because really wealthy people are used to being asked that question, because every time they buy another villa or another mansion, a private jet, they're being asked for it. So I don't ask for it if I can immediately see some level of qualifications, because it can offend when you're just at that very initial inquiry stage. But certainly I try to, when there's interest in a specific yacht, I try to move through to the point of contract as quickly as possible, because with the contracts that we use, they have to put 10% down pretty quickly, and they can get that deposit back if after the sea trial they don't like the yacht or they don't want it. So if they've got the money, it's nothing for them to put 10% down. A lot of the yachts that I sell are in the sort of 5 million range. So for seriously wealthy people to put 500,000 down, knowing they can get it back, it's no big deal. Occasionally people just don't have that money, and then you realize you're wasting your time and you need to move on to the next sale. So yes, we do ask for proof of funds, but it's not like the first question that I ask. First of all, I try to do a bit of due diligence on Google. Miracle, for some reason your question was held for review. I don't see anything wrong with that question, so I've just released that block on it. Please don't forget to contact with Delta 88 for more information and video. Yes, thanks. I love the Delta 88. I genuinely do. And I do want to follow up on that. So thanks for the reminder. Stefano Drago, you got Boat International or the One Yacht and Design magazine? That's advice for the question from, I think it was from Daniel earlier, about other magazines. Yeah, Boat International is a great magazine, but it's become somewhat of a glossy mag that advertises a lot of watches and other stuff. It's okay, but I wouldn't go to that as my first source for information on the yachting industry. I think IBI and Super Yacht Times are vastly superior, to be perfectly honest. With no offense, if anybody's listening from Boat International, love you guys, but I have to call it as I see it. Javier Costa Henry says, talking to Daniel, I think super yacht industry owners are quite well known by brokers. At the end of the day, it's part of their job to know them. That is true. That's very true. But all the time, new names are coming out. The amount of wealthy people in the world who can afford yachts and who buy them numbers into the thousands, if not tens of thousands. And it's impossible to know them all. The individual that contacted me this week, I'd never heard of before. I had to Google him. So, a bit of due diligence is always necessary. Val Fernandez says, I'm a bit taller than you, so I don't think I can be mini. You can't be a mini me. So Arnold, regarding the apprenticeship researcher, perfect, thanks, will do. Juan Nitux, excellent and fun channel. Congratulations. What's the depreciation percentage of a yacht per year? Greetings from Chile. That actually is a good question, and I can answer with some authority on production yachts. And when I say production yachts, I'm talking about your Ferrettis, Azimuts, Sunseekers, Princess Fairlines, all of those fiberglass yachts which are produced on a production line. And when you buy one of those, you pretty much lost 20 to 25% the moment you take delivery of it. After that, it's about 10% per year for quite a few years. So it's another reason that I say you don't buy a yacht to make money. You have to be in a financial position to take the hit and say, I am dedicating this 2, 5, 10 million to having some fun in my life and building some wonderful memories. And I know that I'm going to lose most of the, or some of the money. To be honest, a lot of money you lose when you buy a yacht. There are wise yacht buyers who manage to reduce the amount that they lose, and they're very wise, but it always is a loss, almost always is a financial loss. And yet 10% per year on production yachts. Daniel, last question. Thanks again for the super chat. You know, Daniel, I really do appreciate this very, very much. Last questions. Which are the biggest nationalities buy yachts today? What a good question, because it would have been so easy to have said the Russians years ago. But the Russian market is nowhere near as active as it used to be. They still do buy a lot of yachts. America is still a huge market. America for yacht buyers is still fantastic. A lot of it is involved, Daniel, not with what are the most wealthy nations, but where there's a yachting culture. So, for example, Russia, a Russian once told me that young people in Russia grow up, and one of the first presents they get is the little captain's hat, and they always dream of owning a ship, of going to sea. And so when the Russians suddenly find themselves with vast amounts of money, the first thing they did was to buy a yacht, because that was the way that the Russian culture worked. Now you look at China, where there is vast, untold wealth in China. You know, Mercedes chose China to release the S-Class 2. The money in China is phenomenal, but the culture of owning a yacht hasn't really penetrated China just yet. And so we're not seeing many buyers from China. They're buying shipyards. They're the main investors of Ferretti Group, of Sunseeker. I'm pretty sure that they own 70% of San Lorenzo, although San Lorenzo have gone public now, so that may not be the case. But they own a lot of luxury brands because they have the culture of business and they want luxury brands. But they're not a big yacht buying nation. America, England continues to be a very healthy yacht buying nation, as does Germany. Italy took a big hit in the recession when the Italian government were really looking for people driving around in Ferraris and owning yachts. And so even though Italians do still buy yachts, they've taken a bit of a step backwards. Greece, massive yacht buying nation, massive. So yeah, Greece, America, England, Germany, are the big. Australia, there's a lot of money in Australia and a big appreciation of yachts. Actually, in the deals that I've done in recent years, most of them have had an Australian somewhere in the deal, either a buyer or as a seller or as the broker. It's a big yacht buying nation. Judas says, Sir David, thank you, Judas. I think Middle Eastern, like Sheikh of Arabia, want to obtain yachts. Yeah, the Arabs are big yacht buying nation too. They tend to buy very, very big yachts, and hold on to them for many, many years. And I'm pretty sure that there's a bit of a culture in Saudi Arabia of they generally don't sell the yacht. They'll often give it as a gift to somebody, but not sell it. So it's not, for the brokerage part, it's not a big market for me. Devco, hi, with all due respect. I love it. With all due respect, I always think what's going to come next. A little bit off topic, but we'd like to ask you how to get into the yachting industry as a presenter, having a background as a skipper. Start a YouTube channel. It's free to do. It's great fun, and if you've got your abilities to camera, people will love you, and it takes time to build, and you have to be prepared for your first videos to have maybe next to no views at all, but stick at it. And I can't recommend it highly enough. I absolutely love the YouTube side of my business. Stevens Ottero, what do you think about a 2004 Johnson 87 yacht? You've obviously got one very specifically in mind, and if I was your broker, I'd either go to look at it myself or I'd send a colleague if they're nearer to look at it for you. You've got to look at every yacht on its merits. Johnson are a successful brand. I can see why. They're good value for money. The yacht that they offer for the price is usually very, very good. Especially with yachts which are in the lower price category. I'd take a surveyor with me, and or I would with any yacht, but I'd look a lot more closely at something like a Johnson 87. Not that there's anything wrong with the brand, but you're talking now about a 16-year-old 87-foot yacht. A lot depends on how much money the previous owners put into it, how well it's been looked after. Survey, 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 survey. Talk to the captain, the maintenance schedule. Lift up some platforms, look in the bilges, make sure there's not dirty, oily water in there. Look at the engine room, see how well it's been looked after. That's what I think about that yacht, and for that matter, any other 2004 yacht. Merricook's on his way. Thank you, Merricook. Red hand to you too. Thank you very, very much indeed for all of your input. Oh my word, is that the time? I'm going to just make sure there's no other question with a super chat, which there's not. I'll take one last question and then we'll call it a day. Walter Gomez, I'll take your question and then I'm going to have to bid you all farewell, I'm afraid. Walter Gomez asks, what will you recommend for a cross-Atlantic yacht? Not much as brands may be, but a key features to have safe crossings. Right, that's an excellent question. Personally, I would not want to cross the Atlantic on anything less than a 50 meter, but that's me personally. I think by the time you get to 50 meters, 150 feet, you've got some level of comfort on board. But even then, on a rough Atlantic crossing, the biggest, you can be on a cruise liner on a rough Atlantic crossing and it's going to be pretty rough. I love the stories I have from clients who've bought these older 50-meter Fed ships. You may remember I had for sale a yacht called Illusion, which was an older classic Fed ship that crossed the Atlantic several times. Was an absolutely adorable yacht, as was Mary Jean, the 50-meter Campanella, that crossed the Atlantic several times. And so, yeah, I'd be looking at a steel hull, aluminium superstructure, steel hull, 50-meter, and there's an abundance of them on the market, basically. That's the main two characteristics I'd look at. Excellent. I'm going to call it a day there. Thank you so much for the super chats. That was really, you're very generous of a lot of you, and thanks as well for your many questions. Don't forget, next week, same time, same place, Friday, 6 o'clock Paris time, breaking into Yacht Brokerage. Thank you once again, everybody, very much.